Blain Padgett.
Blain Padgett of Rice University.
And chopped down by Blain Padgett.
I'm here to tell my son's story, which is now mine and my family's story, and hopefully make a difference for someone else so they don't have to go through this.
For us, the beginning starts when Blain was born, January 27th of 1997. He was our first child. He was a blessing, a miracle. We loved him right from the first time we saw him. I knew it was going to be special. He had these giant, big crab hands, and he was wanting his independence from the first couple days he was born. So it starts there.
Well, Blain was our first child, our first baby. We tried for several years to get pregnant and finally did. And of course, he was the first grandchild on my side. And we all just thought he hung the moon. We watched everything he did. We stopped the rest of our lives to watch him. He was very smart, talented, sweet, cute little boy. He was very strong-willed, very hard-headed. He was determined. When he decided he wanted to do something, he was determined that he was going to make it happen.
People say a lot, this kid, he was really, he was fearless, but Blain truly was fearless. Example, at the second house we lived in, it was nearby, and his cousin came over, a bunch of friends, and they were playing hide and go seek and down the bayou, and it was probably half a mile from the house, and other kids came back, and we can't find Blain. He's nowhere to be found, and Blain was up in a cypress stump on the side of the bayou where you would not send your worst enemy, but he's just up in there hiding and just laughing. Wasn't scared at all. And there's moccasins and alligators in the bayou, and he's he won. No one found him.
We knew he was a leader from the very beginning. I think it was his 3-year-old preschool teacher said, "He's a leader, whether it be bad or good. He's a leader. He can make the entire class follow him." And, we just always tried to talk to him about, making sure that was for good things, that people would follow him. And they did. His whole life, he loved football, loved sports, really any sport he was pretty good at. He really just played baseball because his friends played baseball. It was not his favorite sport because it wasn't moving all the time. Football was action, and he loved that. And so he played sports and grew up in a small town, Sour Lake, Texas, and he loved being outdoors. He loved sitting by a fire and visiting with friends, visiting with family.
He was hard-headed and would really get under my skin sometimes, some of the things he did as a young kid, just pushing the limits. His first words were outside, outside. I want to go outside. And we've got pictures of me mowing the yard with him up on my shoulders. If I was outside, he was outside.
He went to Hardin Jefferson High School and decided when he was young, a lot younger, that he wanted to play football in college like his daddy did. And so he asked his dad, "What do I need to do to get a college scholarship?" And then he put his mind to it and started working out hard and doing everything he could do to get the recognition that he wanted to get.
One thing that I think is really unique about me and Blain's relationship was, I think if you would ask him who his best friend was, he would say me. And during, after he was a teenager up until his college days, we were best friends. We wrestled together. We wrestled year after year after year until he finally put me on my back. A couple times, ducked me in a lake one time when we were wrestling. And our wrestling matches would get pretty intense. So when he was 17 years old, he beat me wrestling. He was old school. He listened to old country music. He once told me, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm coming up in the wrong generation." He didn't understand a lot of the things that people did and why they did it and the music they listened to. I think he was probably one of the most comfortable people I know in his own skin.
Several colleges come and see him play and offer him scholarships, and he made the decision to go to Rice University and play football there for them.
I played in the old Southwest Conference, and Rice has always been, just kind of underperforming, overachieving type of school in football. But at the time, Rice was doing really well in football. They currently had players that were in the NFL, and of course Rice, with Rice's schedule, being able to play a lot of top caliber teams. Blain was never scared of, good competition. He went to a smaller school and played every position on the field basically. And I think a lot of recruiting schools, they just didn't know, what do I do with this kid? Obviously, he's an athlete. He's all over the field. He's really active. Where do we want him to play? SMU wanted him to play stand-up linebacker. U of H wanted him to play tight end. Rice was probably one of the best educations you could get. There are certainly some things about Rice we know now that we didn't know then, really good and bad. But I tell you what, the people at Rice, we learned over time, they're very committed to their athletes, student athletes, not as much athletes, but the student athletes. They're very supportive. The coaches were very supportive. His teammates were really good friends. And he changed a few things around Rice. He once got in a fight with a fellow teammate at the end of a practice because they were practicing for a bowl game. They weren't sure if they're going to be able to go to a bowl game. And one of the other older players, he was a really good player as well. It was like, why are we out here practicing? We're probably not even going to go to a bowl game. And Blain stood up and they got in a fist fight right there. And it was a knockdown, drag out. And, a week later, Coach Bailiff calls and he's like, Michael, this is kind of what's going on. We can't have this. But he said it was the most awesome thing I ever saw. He said, your son loves football. I said, yeah, he does.
We enjoyed watching him play football. He loved it so much. And in high school, of course, it was different than college, but in high school, really didn't come out of the game. Played offense and defense and loved every bit of it. And we, as a family, we have a big family, loved watching him play. He liked Rice. The academic parts were harder than what he was used to in high school. A lot of writing, a lot of, advanced. But he did well. His grades were good, made good grades. He loved practice, loved being part of the team, made some really great friends on the team that they did a lot of things outside of school together. Went to the beach and horseback riding and swimming. And so he really became a part of the team and made a lot of great friends. His sophomore year, at the end of the season, they were playing Stanford in California, and he injured his shoulder. But it was, at the end of the season, he rested, did some physical therapy, was ready for spring practice, and then the next fall, he started the season off, and the third game was against University of Houston in Houston at U of H field, and he injured it again. He actually was on the field and still playing, and his coach noticed that he wasn't using his right arm, and he was still making tackles and still playing and wouldn't come off the field. So his coach asked him, what's going on? And he said, my shoulder's bad. So he came off the field, talked to the doctors, team doctors, and decided to have shoulder surgery.
Had surgery. He worked really hard to rehab it, and he got to the point where they were going to release him. And the day before he died, he called me and we were just talking, and he was, like I said, really excited about the next day and his spring coming up, and he was going to get an extra year of eligibility with a medical red shirt. Everything was just going in our direction, and I think I talked to him for 45 minutes, and then later on that night, Wendy said, "Hey, I talked to Blain today." I said, "I did too."
We all spoke to him. Both my daughters spoke to him, and my husband and I both spoke to him separately. He was really, just going on, talking 90 miles an hour about how excited he was for the next day.
Me and Blain just sat in the chair. I was watching TV, and we just talked about anything, kind of like to say what's up, and kind of like talking to an old high school friend.
The next morning, we didn't know it, but he missed practice, 5:30 practice, and he never missed practice.
I get a call from Roe Wilkins, one of his teammates, and then one of the coaches, and they're looking for Blain, and they're asking me, "Where's Blain?" I'm like, I don't know where the hell he is. Y'all, you tell me, So he missed practice, and right then, when I heard he missed practice, I was like, something's happened. He's not here with us anymore. I knew it. I felt in my heart that he was gone.
I got a phone call from my husband about 2 o'clock at school and said that nobody could find him, that he had missed practice and still hadn't come to the school, hadn't been in class. His roommates were gone, and so nobody had been able to get into the house.
So me and my daughter started driving to Houston to try to find him, because I was thinking somebody's killed him. He's he got in a wreck. I was going. We were going crazy.
So my husband and I are on the phone. My oldest daughter, Kennedy, was with my husband, thank goodness, not by herself. And so she knew. And so they were just going to head to Houston and go try to find him.
When I was heading down Highway 90, I got to Devers, Texas, and got a call. We pulled over, and that's kind of when our life changed.
While they were on the phone with me, they were also on the phone with the police. And they had gone into the house. They found his roommate. He opened the door for him, and they went in and found him.
Half of us is gone. And that day changed our life. And a lot of people's lives.
So my husband and I and my daughter Kennedy went to go pick up my daughter Cameron at junior high. Had to tell her that he was gone. And we all got in the car and drove. My friend drove us, so none of us had to drive, drove us to Houston. And of course, I don't know if it was because of his age. He was 21. I don't know if that was the reason, but they would not let us see him. They said we could not come to the coroner's office to see him. We could not, even if we got to the house before they took him out, they said they would not let us see him. And of course, that was upsetting at the time. Now I thank God for it, because I don't have that memory. My last memory of him is happy and alive and his eyes open and smiling. So I'm thankful for that now, But we got there in Houston, got to his house. The whole team came over. All the coaches were there. My whole family drove over. My husband's family drove over. And I guess that was March 2nd. It was about June 20th, I think, that we found out the cause of death was CARFENTANIL. They said accidental overdose. We found out pretty quickly that it was 1 or 2 pills, and that was the only thing in his system. There was no hydrocodone, no, anything else. I think they had to send it off for some extra testing, because it first came back, they said that they didn't know the cause of death. But they did find a pill bottle next to his bed that had 2 other pills in it. And they tested those, and they had it also. through his friends, through the other boys, through his phone. We gave his phone to the police. They were able to find out that he did ask for a former teammate for some hydrocodone. His shoulder was hurting, and he wanted to be able to work out that week. And I think he had asked to talk to the team doctor. He got impatient, I guess, and didn't want to wait to talk to him. So he did get these pills from an ex-teammate, and they were carfentanil. They were fake hydrocodone. They were pressed to look exactly like hydrocodone. They said they would not be able to tell the difference. That the doctors, the coroner, couldn't even tell the difference. And so he was, and yes, they say accidental overdose. The wording now has changed. He was poisoned. He made the choice to take the pills and to trust someone to take the pills from someone. But he didn't ask for that. He didn't ask for carfentanil. He asked for hydrocodone. And at the time, we had never heard of anybody dying from taking 1 or 2 pills of anything. When you hear the word overdose, it makes you think they've taken a whole bottle of something, So, we found out, but it did take a few months for us to find out what exactly had happened. It's a huge investigation. They actually named the investigation "Be That Guy," which was a couple of weeks before Blain died. He spoke to his teammate, or his old team at Hard Jefferson, the high school boys, and his title of his speech was "Be That Guy." Be the guy that's first on the field and last out of the weight room. And I wish I had a copy of his speech, but I don't. But that was the gist of it, was, to be the guy that everybody, respects. And so the officer asked me, the narcotics officer asked me, what could they name it? And they named it "Be That Guy." And they did a huge investigation. Of course, it lasted several years. The ex-teammate that he received the pills from was actually out of the country the week that Blain died. He went out of the country to Lebanon and came back in the country about 4 months later and turned himself in, or went to the police station and gave them his phone, which helped the investigation a lot. Said that he did give Blain those pills, that he did not know what they were, and I believe him. I believe that he was in the wrong situation. He was, working for the wrong people. He was in the wrong. Graduate from Rice, should not have been doing what he was doing. But he made the choice to do that, and he did admit to it, and was very helpful to the police in the investigation as far as who and where he got the pills from. So that was a huge help, and he went to jail, I guess, last March of 22. He was sentenced. He got 12 years. It was originally, I think, 20 years maybe, but because of his help to the investigation, some was marked off. So
everyone's at risk. I don't know what it is. 70,000 people in 2021 died of this, and I don't hear a thing about it other than this. This will happen, but it should be on the news. It should be on the news every night. Public service announcements. Do you really see a lot of those? Do you? No, you don't. Yeah, so even our small message we have here and other parents, hopefully someone will be listening so they don't have to do this. I don't like talking. I've got to talk at work, and I don't say a lot, but this is definitely worth it. He loved his family. He was a compassionate kid. Wasn't a bully like a lot of these big high school football players are. He looked after the small guy, and it's the word needs to be out there, and people just don't think it can happen to them. Parents don't think it can happen to their kid. Well, if it can happen to Blain, it can happen to anybody out there, any kid out there. So.